All right, let's talk about our next app we're going to build. This is a game that's going to be like Whack-A-Mole. If you remember that Chuck E. Cheese game where you got the big hammer. We don't have a hammer. We don't have things literally popping onto the screen, but we're going to have a sprite um, pop up on the screen and then move around randomly. And your job is going to be to touch the sprite, and we'll add some things like scoring and sounds and then you'll take the basic one that I give you here and you'll customize it, put some different graphics in there, put some different sounds in there. And if you want to extend this a little bit, we'll show you how to put a different level. Like if you once you get to 5 points or 10 points, you go to level two, and the mole, the sprite, will move around faster. All right, let's get started. We have our screen right here. And the first thing I want you to notice is when you downloaded this, it should have four files in the media. There's an Android sprite image we're going to use. There's a sprite sound we're going to use. This is the background image, and this is going to be something that we'll use later on in video 2 or 3. So first thing I want to do though is, do you remember how sometimes we don't have this opportunity up here to choose the phone size, tablet size, monitor? The way we're going to fix that is going to come over here to your only component we have right now is a screen. And if you scroll down where it says sizing, change it from fixed to responsive. And now we have that option. We're going to use monitor size. And then the first thing we're going to do is drag in a canvas. And if you remember, that was in the drawing and animation. We'll do that. And can you guess what I'm going to do for the height and the width? Yep, that's what I'm going to do. Fill parent on both. Oops, I didn't do. Yes, I did. Okay. Um, okay. Oh, I see. I need to put in my image right here. And the said we're going to do is this WM1. And let's put that in there. And WN stands for Whack-A-Mole, and one is just means the first one that I did. I was trying 2 or 3 different ones. I settled on that. So we have the screen there. We have the canvas. We need to drag in a sprite, which is not going to be there. It's going to be in the animation. And we need to also bring in two things that are not going to be seen: the clock, which will drop down, if you remember, comes down here, non-visible, and also the player. So the player is in the media area. We'll drop that one in, and it comes down here too. So what we're going to do is, for these three, I'm going to change the names, and I'm going to give a little pause here for a minute and then come back when the names are changed. Okay, so I changed the name of the Android, the sprite to Sprite Android, and the player to Player Squish, because that's the sound we're going to play when it squishes, when you whack the mole. I didn't change the clock because we just have one clock, and we're just going to leave. Usually, we can leave the clock alone. We don't have competing clocks going very often. So the one thing I want to do though is I want to take the source here for the player squash, and it's going to be the MP3, and we got that, and we'll come up to the sprite, and let's give it the picture of the Android sprite, and it's got an automatic height and width. We'll go with that for right now, and then we might need to adjust it later on. All right. So we've got that. Let's go over to our blocks and start putting together some blocks. And the first thing we're going to do is go to screen one and the initialized. And when it's initialized, what we want to do is to have the sprite move to a random position. And if you remember how we did that, we take a random integer between 1 and, do you remember what it was? Since we're talking about the X here, it's the canvas width, not the height. The Y will be the canvas height. So we'll just duplicate that. And instead of width, we'll go to height. All right. So this means when we turn turn it on, the Android moves to a random place. The other thing is we want to do it when the clock ticks. Whoops, what happened there? When the clock ticks, we would like to have it do the same thing, right? I'm going to duplicate that, and we're going to move it to a random place. The last thing I want to do right now is when the Android is touched, I want to call the player sound. So we're going to do three things. Start out with the random placement. Every time the clock ticks, we're going to put it in a new random place. And every time you touch, we're going to play that sound. Now we're going to have to add a clock in there. We're going to have to add a timer, a score keeping. But you remember how to do that because we just did it with Mario. And matter of fact, that's what I want you to do is go back to your Mario and figure out how you did that. And we'll do the same thing.